you've been listening, you know that this podcast has been proof of all things pivoting, right? And that it's okay to pivot. The name has changed like 8,000 times. Some of the episodes are actually from like a year or two ago when I started this thing, stopped this thing, and even just like building consistency. I've been inconsistently consistent, but we're still here. And that's what I want to talk about today. And I even want to invite you to give yourself permission to be in that pivot space where it can be a little bit messy sometimes and inconsistent. I think what feels really different for me this year is I'm okay with that. And it's not this pressure to get it done a certain way. I don't feel bad if I'm not putting things out every week. It's like I want to build something meaningful, and I'm having a really good time doing it. I'm actually enjoying producing these episodes. It's a lot of thought of like, what do I want to put now? Or who do I want to invite? And who would be a great guest? And what do you guys want to hear? How long should it be? All of those things. But as I'm learning that, I think I'm just giving myself permission to enjoy the process and really like it is what it is. I just don't give up. And I just want to give you the best of me. If you've been listening, you know that this podcast has been proof of all things pivoting. Today, I want to talk about a little bit of that space, but the idea of starting, resetting, staying connected to yourself in that like middle pivot change. All right, here we go. Okay, so I just got back from a weekend away, and let me tell you, I didn't even realize how much I needed to step away until I actually did. And it wasn't just like the time difference of being away. I was like all the way across the US, or like, I think coming back, I came back stupid late, one of those like red eye flights, and it had me exhausted when I got back. I'm still a little tired now. And it wasn't that. What I realized, it was more how much I put out in the weekend of learning and receiving and being in such a present space that took a different level of energy, right? It reminded me of to my Jesus girlies, like if you've ever like preached a sermon and you pour it out, like at the end, you're just like beat, like you just want to go home and lay down. Go lay down. Like that's where I was, because I think I had not given so much, but really received so much in that space. It was a clinical retreat because I want to work less and leverage my skills even more to do better work. And that meant taking time to go be around like bigger mindsets and not working, but building. It was something I decided to do a couple months ago, and I just set the date and like set it and forget it. So it was coming up. And I think sometimes we have to move like that too, where it's like we're not sure when we'll take the space or how, or if we'll take time off or when. But how about you just book it out on the calendar? So by the time it gets here, there's nothing to do but take it, right? It got here, there's nothing for me to do but like book the flight, my stay, those sorts of things. But it was already paid for, it was already done, it was there. I think sometimes we have to just do that, because then we keep procrastinating and putting off and filling other things in what should be our time. Okay. So while I was there, someone had just said something like, you should go see like the Red Rock, whatever it was, right? And I was like, all right, I'll do that. And they just so happened to have like 7 a.m. yoga. And I got up and I did that thing. And there was this moment during the sunrise yoga class where the instructor said, don't let this moment pass you. And that kind of hit me, because how often do we actually stop long enough to be present for ourselves? How often do we let the moments that could heal us, build us, just pass us by because we're too busy, we're too tired, we're like on that phone, we're too used to carrying it all that we miss our moment, right? Even when she mentioned to me going to yoga, she really just mentioned that she was going. It wasn't even like to me, I just happened to be there to catch it, right? And I could have missed that moment, but it was a beautiful moment, and I'm glad that I caught it. And that's the thing about pivots. They require more than just decisions and action. They also require capacity. They also require you being in the space to catch the things that will help you move towards that capacity. And for sure, you cannot create capacity in your life, in your business, relationships, your leadership, if you're running on fumes, or if you don't even understand what your next level capacity looks like. You really do need places and people that can share the vision, pour back into you so you can have an idea of the how in capacity. I'll share with you, while I was there, one of the women who was training, right? And first of all, I just love her confidence and how she exuded that, right? Like my job is reading people, so I do that. And I was like, damn, like her energy is like truly unapologetic. Like, it's just, this is what I do, this is what I charge, boom, boom, and that's it. It's like, I just want to borrow a little bit of that as I'm building this new thing. And I'm not really sure how it's going to work, but I know that I have the capacity for it. I have the skills, the talents, the expertise, all of that. I'm going to borrow some of that. Where when I show up, when I talk about it, when I do it, I'm going to come with that. But I can only borrow that because I was in the position to see what that actually looks like. Right. And I'm all about how to show up in like your full confident self. So I teach women that all the time. But baby, when you see people like executing on a higher level, it's like, there's still a little bit more that can be done. There's still a little bit more that can be tweaked to like get you there. Right. So that was dope. Not only that, but the ideas and concepts that she was teaching, it was so weird because it was things that I was doing already. I just never thought to put it together that way. And I had this conversation where I was telling her, it's hard to know how to dream bigger when you have not seen the dream. And being in that space, I saw what else was possible. And now I'm telling everybody this because we don't know and understand sometimes how limited we are and how we are living from that limited place simply because we've never seen what else it could be. If I've never left like my neighborhood, let's say I never left Brooklyn, I would just believe the world was like Brooklyn, right? Like busy, cute over here, nice spots over here, diversity, right? And I just think the whole world was like that because that's been the only thing that I've seen. It's the only point of reference that my mind has. But now when you travel somewhere else and you're like, oh, I got to drive to get everywhere. What you said, there's elk? Who's that? Right? That's a different experience. And while you have to take the time to conceptualize that and move through the space of being mind blown, people have already experienced that. It's already normal for them and they're just going about their business. Right. So it's so important to expose yourself to things so that you can hurry up and catch up and allow that to be your norm so you can live at a new level, do bigger things. But you've got to expose yourself to that. Even if you had told me this was out there, it's still different than seeing it. It's easier to build when you've like seen it, you have the instruction for it, you have an idea for it, right? Yes, some things is truly like blind faith, but even in blind faith, there's these blueprints that are out there to help craft that for you. So there's some real value to stepping in away, and I hope you're capturing that from what I'm saying today, right? Because that's really what we're talking about, and it gives us space, I think, as women who are constantly doing something, mostly out of survival, to have space to heal the container for capacity and allow it to be stretched. That's a huge value of stepping away, creating space for that, right? Even Jesus stepped away when he went to the Garden of Gethsemane, right? When he slept on the boat in the storm. And he had moments to where he disappeared because there was times when he was by himself. There was times when he was strategically positioned to meet other people and do other things. So why wouldn't we need to step away? But now here's the other part to this. Environments are powerful. So it's not just going to things and positioning yourself outside of the routine to experience that. Just as important is what are you coming back to? So if you're coming back to the same environment, right? The same draining patterns, the same people, it's easy to like lose that spark and excitement that you had, that grew, that motivation that kind of kicked up for you, right? I think that's why I value like my business spaces that I've created because it's about that accountability for consistency. That's why it's not just about one moment of rest, growth, fasting, quiet time, healing, learning, whatever you need to step into, but what you come back to, invest in that too. The right spaces, the rhythms, habits, communities that remind you of who you are and that will keep that thing going. Not just what you do for everyone else and not just like pouring out all the time, but you need a space or spaces or things that will hold your growth accountable. And that's why I believe so deeply also in retreats, right? Like Bali was a vibe last year. Next level restorative, right? And now that I'm starting to feel like I need something else, the next retreat is coming up. Right? And I've been in like the right community in between to hold me together. Right? So I know that there's something magical about retreats and not like the Instagram version, but real spaces where women like us who are tired of performing and producing and showing up for everyone get to take the mask off. Like, do you have a place to take the mask off, girl? Do you do it often? Spaces where like you're more than the job title, the responsibility, where you're not just a mom, a leader, a checklist, but you're a whole person who deserves to be cared for first by yourself, though. Where you get to be poured into instead of poured out and with with our community. Are you coming back home to things that's restorative, right? Our community, the business community, the Couch to Business Collective, it's a restorative space. And I need that space. You need that space. If you're building, you should be in that space because it's really hard to do this life alone. And it's hard to be around people, to have family and friends, but they don't really hold big level visions. And what that means is you can have people around you and be just as lonely too. Right. So community and specific kinds become super valuable depending on where you are in your growth and what you're building. And I encourage you to just stay in places and take the time to connect to those spaces. Right. So it's about where you're going to retreat to and what you're coming back home to. Because when you step away intentionally, something really changes. You come back different, you come back grounded, you come back ready, and not to grind harder, but to live fuller. Like I feel like this week, everything is just exuding that confidence that I borrowed. Everything is just exuding the possibility that I built over that weekend in that space with people way outside of my box. All right, sis. So if you're listening and you've been feeling it, that exhaustion, that knowing that something needs to shift, I want you to know that you are not crazy. You're probably just overdue and it's time to step away. And maybe it's time to stop waiting for permission to take that step and being so busy that, girl, you can't even schedule it. Schedule it, right? Come join me on my annual retreat every year. This year it's Costa Rica. It's the space I needed when I was in this business building, learning to lead and create space, right? It's the one I know so many high achieving, high carrying women are desperate for, but don't even realize it yet. And if that's you, if you feel like you've been running on autopilot and you're craving that space to exhale, to recalibrate, I want to invite you to check it out. All right, I'll make sure I put the details in the show notes, or you can always come visit me too at renewconnectrestore.com. And even if it's not with me, right, this season of like refresh, renewal, finding yourself coming home to you, if it's not with me, even if it's just a moment today where you choose yourself in a very small way, don't let that moment pass you by. All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. I'm so proud of you. And I'll see you soon.